a good week of training. I would say a really focused week of training. Obviously have to have the opportunity to evaluate our performance versus Seattle, take away some of the things that we needed to learn, and apply them during the training week. Look forward to Chicago, some of the challenges that they're going to present. Work through that. But a group that I think came back this week with a real focused mentality, and a group that was committed to getting better. And as we continue through the week, we're definitely addressing those things and getting better.
Great. We'll start with questions in the room, then go to Zoom as always, and try and ask two if you have them. Go ahead.
BJ, you're facing off against Greg Berhalter, obviously long-term head coach, and have you talked to him? What are some of the thoughts and sort of expectations for this match against him?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, listen, Greg's somebody I have a great relationship with. I would say as a friend, as a mentor, as a colleague. So somebody who I'm close with, someone who we talk all the time because we have our own you have your own personal relationships in our families and stuff. So again, somebody I have tremendous respect for. But I would presume he would say the same thing. It's not BJ versus Greg or Greg versus BJ this week. It's a really good Chicago team versus what I would call a really good Nashville team that are going to compete. And I think you've seen a real strategic way of picking up players in Chicago. The additions that they've made have been great. The team plays with a really clear identity, a solid defensive team, and a team that has a lot of attacking talent. And I think with the clear identity that they've built, it also gives them flexibility and adaptability, and it's a difficult team to prepare for throughout the week.
And then just in terms of Walker Zimmerman, what's the latest on him? We know it's concussion protocol, so I know it's not perfect, but
yeah, that's the update. Again, continuing to be day to day as we follow sort of the protocol that we must follow and he must follow, and we'll continue to providing all of the support and doing everything. So again, it's just kind of a day to day basis with Walker.
Okay.
BJ, how much the fact that you guys know each other so well, you and Greg, especially in terms of soccer, become a play at a game like this? I mean, I'm sure he's probably different on the way he used to do his work at the national team. How much of that comes into play?
I mean, I think philosophically how someone looks at a game, and we've shared so much time together that you probably look at how you look at the game and how you analyze the game. But one of his greatest strengths is how meticulously he game plans and is detailed, and how flexible he can be. And you can see that if you watch Chicago across the games, is how they play with a very clear identity on what they want to do and what they want to accomplish. But they can do it in so many ways, and that he's going to set his team up the best way to have those players have success. And so for us, it's not. I don't think it's the historical or personal connection is going to dictate what we can expect on Saturday night.
Now, in terms of Nashville, I mean, after what's been happening, the good games, the so-so games, like the first half again in Seattle, how much have you had to kind of work or change anything before you face Chicago here at home?
Yeah, I look at it as this is part of sort of the growing process that we're going to have as we continue to sort of, build who we want to be. When we talk about, it's starting chapter 6 this year. It's new, it's fresh. Our trajectory is not just going to be straight up. We know that there's going to be moments that we learn from, and there's going to be moments that we don't play as consistent as we want to. And as we continue to go through the season, that's our goal, is to just play more consistently. But I don't think we're not in a position where we think we need to change what we do. I think we just have to continue to learn and grow, get better at what we do, so we can do it more consistently. But we know it's part of any development and learning curve, that it's not linear and just goes straight up. And sometimes in those moments that you speak about in Seattle, some of those are some of the deepest learning moments that you can have. And I think this week the team has responded great to it, really focused, having good conversations, deep conversations on how we can improve.
We'll go to Ben on Zoom.
Yeah, BJ, sorry if you hear my daughter in the background. Just looking back at the Seattle game, I know you wanted to play to keep the field pretty compact and kind of narrow, and it felt like they were able to maybe exploit that with a little bit. I'm just curious from your perspective after reviewing it, what do you think they did maybe differently that allowed them to kind of exploit those wide areas that other teams you've played so far maybe haven't done to that same effect?
Yeah, I think they were able to, I thought they did a good job of being able to play, access their center midfielders a little bit, make us get compact centrally, and then open up wide areas and create wide overloads. So I thought that, they did a really good job in that. And then, with their pressure, they were able to compact the field defensively. So again, for us, it's about, being able to recognize those moments quicker and earlier, and understanding that we may have to, if we can play behind, we can play behind a little bit more and be a threat there. If we want to play a little bit wider, we can have to get some support in the wide areas to play. And again, all part of that learning curve of continuing to develop us so that we're able to all recognize these moments in a quicker fashion, which will then allow us to play in a more consistent way. But really happy with the direction and the progress that we're going over these first, when you look at it from a 9-game standpoint.
And then just wanted to ask about Ryan Acosta really quick. I think he played 60-something minutes for Huntsville, and I know you said he's kind of been getting closer and closer over the last few weeks. What are you expecting from him once he does return and is able to get on the field? How do you expect him to kind of impact this rotation that you have in midfield? Yeah,
obviously he's going to give us good competition in the midfield. He's a player that I think feels comfortable coming low, getting the ball, facing forward, has the ability to play balls behind the back line, has the ability to switch the ball. His long passing is a real weapon. And then defensively, I think he's good at closing down opponents, dueling, so it can bring a bit of bite or energy type into that midfield as well. So again, as he continues to get fully healthy and fully fit, those are sort of the attributes I think he can kind of come in and deploy for us.
Go ahead, Nick.
BJ, you mentioned the post-match press conference in Seattle that you were just rotating Eddie and Patrick to get some sort of rotation out there. Coming into the season, just curious, did you have like the mindset or game plan on paper, like looking at certain teams that finished, let's say, bottom 5 last year, that you'd have a certain midfield pairing for that? Obviously injuries happen, but do you ever have something like that going into the season where you have maybe a Eddie and a Whitemeyer or a Yazbek and a Costa type thing for certain, specific teams, that is?
I think for us, it's just about listening to kind of what the team needs on this week-to-week basis, and not really getting ahead of ourselves, looking at certain teams or what level certain teams are. I think it's we're glad that we have depth. Glad that we have guys competing for spots. We have confidence that we can put in multiple players in multiple positions. We've seen that. We've seen those guys, that group that comes off the bench or that group that gets their number called with a next man up mentality, make impacts for us. So for us as a team, we're confident that we have the depth to make impacts. But I would say more or less it's reading and communicating with the group and sort of listening to what the group needs as we go through the weeks versus pre-planned opponent to opponent rotations.
And obviously coming into this weekend, getting a big win would be huge for the team. But you have a lot of games coming up in May. It's about 3 to 4 days in between each game. Just can you explain the importance of just getting quality minutes in this weekend's game to kind of set the tone for May?
Yeah, we know that we're going to have guaranteed, I think it's 8 games in May, with hopefully an opportunity to advance in the Open Cup to make it 9 games in May. This is a good catalyst. We're hoping that this can be a good catalyst on Saturday night. We know for us, our focus is to make sure that we apply, a good game plan and a good performance and match it with the right mentality in the group. And I think when we're able to marry those two things together, that's when we're at our best. That's our expectation competing against Chicago on Saturday night at home, is to put on a performance that is I would say, indicative of who we are, both from an intensity and mentality standpoint, and from a quality of soccer standpoint, and allow that to sort of build as a catalyst, as when we transition and move to May.